Hey everybody, it's Dan. I was asked by a few people of our group to make a video regarding making metal etched tumblers. So, couple upfront things. First things first, you have to determine what kind of etching you want to do. Do you want it to have a deep inset etch, or do you want to just be something that changes the color and is permanent? That determines what kind of setup you need. What I mean by that is you're using electricity. AC and DC power determines how it cuts. So if you use DC power, DC being direct current, 9-volt battery, 6-volt battery, lantern batteries, or like I use, which is a car battery charger system. If you use DC power, you're going to get deep etch. That means it'll go as deep as you would let it go. It could cut all the way through. It could cut a 1/4 inch deep. However thick the material is, it's up to you and how long you want to sit there and hold it on there. AC power, what it will do is it will burn the same way. It'll burn an etch into it. However, it'll leave a black scarring mark all the way around. So for example, if you did a circle, like we'll say the Starbucks emblem, if you did the Starbucks emblem burnt in there, everything that you want transferred or that you want to go through is going to be black burned versus, as some of you had seen with my previous burn, it'll be just contoured and recessed. I'll show you all that here in a minute. So that's the first thing, is determining what kind of a cut you want to do. The second thing to that is, so I'm going to show you how to do a DC burn. I'm not going to do AC because, one, I don't have the stuff. Two, it's not worth it. I can do a DC burn and get a quality product out of it. There's no real need to use the AC side because it's a little bit more dangerous. If you accidentally touch exposed metal on the AC, you're going to electrocute yourself. DC, probably not going to hurt you. Worst case scenario, if you've ever stuck a battery to your tongue, that's what you're going to feel. And unless your arms are soaking wet or your hands are soaking wet and you touch the positive and negative lead, it's really not going to do anything to you. And even if it was, again, it's probably going to be very minimal, if anything. So basics of it is you would use, in my case, I'm using a car battery charger. So with those, you can't use a new high-speed, top-of-the-line car battery charger. The issue with those is they have safety cutoffs in them. They have thermal cutoffs in them, and they won't work. They won't ground and short circuit, which is what you needed to do. So, and what I mean by that is the ones that have the label on them that says that it has to be connected to the battery before the terminals work, it's not going to do anything for you. In fact, I just bought one of those from Harbor Freight and Tool, and it didn't work. Completely useless. So if you have an older one, something that's 10, 15 years old, those are perfect. That's what I happen to have, is something that's pretty old. There are newer ones that you can buy that don't have all the safety stuff on it. Realistically, you're just looking for one that doesn't have the automatic detection and doesn't have the automatic adjustment. You don't want something that's going to automatically adjust the amperage and the voltage based on what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and get all my stuff together and show you the setup and show you how to burn. Alright, so here's my setup. This is the cup that I already made. The engraving that I did, you can see it's got some depth to it and color and, or excuse me, texture. I polished this out just because there was some color flaws in it I didn't care for. And what I'm going to do is this on the back. So I'm not going to insult y'all's intelligence with vinyl. This is 651 vinyl. I laid it down as you would anything else. The only difference is I did a negative image of it versus the normal. So the issues that you'll see is something like right here where this little piece is sticking up. You have to make sure that those are all flattened out and make sure that there's no spots for the water to get under there. Once you've made sure of that and you've got everything, all the vinyl stuck down properly, then you can go ahead and start with your process. So in order to cut this image into this metal stainless steel tumbler, this is a Ozark tumbler from Walmart. You'll need a power source. So for mine, I'm using this. It's a 6 and 2 amp dual rated battery charger. This is an old school charger, very stupid simple. It's got your voltage assessment, your voltage adjustment, your amp adjustment. It's got a gauge. It's got 2 clips. What I used is I made a adapter, or a spoon basically. Took a piece of copper tubing, 3/4 inch diameter copper tubing, and I flattened and then bent the edge of this a little bit. And what that does is it allows for my contact patch to be larger, and therefore being able to do a larger section faster. You'll need salt water. So with this salt water, all I did was I took warm water and I poured, I don't know the ratio, I poured a bunch of salt in there until I got it to the consistency you see, where it's got a little bit of salt left in the bottom, but not too much. And then these are what I'm using. These are used for makeup, basically just a 100% cotton pad, and then I used a rubber band on them like this. So basically the process is kind of simple. All you do is you connect the positive lead from the terminal to the cup, and then connect the negative lead onto, what I do is I put it onto the back of my tube like that, and then you go ahead and turn on your system and dip and etch. Alright, so the system's on. Right now no voltage is pushing because nothing's shorted. You'll hear the noise from it. That's just this one in particular. So all you do is you dip it in here. What I did was I used some electrical tape and just added it to this to help give me a little bit of heat protection, because this does start to get warm. So you take, and you don't want it to be soaking wet, but you want it to be wet. And what you'll do is you'll take and just set this onto your system. And if you listen, you can hear the etching happening actually. That's a good sound. One of the things on this one, and this is what I like about it, is I can actually watch and see my voltage. So when it goes to the max voltage like it's doing right there, it'll actually safety cut off. So if you hold it to where if you play with your pressure on your spoon, if you will, you can keep it to where it stays around the 6 amp mark. That's that 6 on the left there, and then just move it around and engrave it. So doesn't seem like it's doing much, which is what I found out with the other one. Is it seemed like it was doing very little until I pulled all the vinyl off, but it's actually doing a lot. So what I found is probably somewhere between 5 to 10 seconds you want to put it on here, and you're gonna have to watch your voltage. And then when it starts leaving all that black residue on there, that's the cotton coming off. So just dip it in the salt water again, wipe it off a little bit, and you can see all that. That's the metal, and that's actually being burned off of the piece. And then go back to running it. You can play with your pressure like I'm doing on here, and just kind of move it around. Basically, you're gonna figure out your own pattern, how you want to do it. Because it is kind of hard to see it sometimes. One of the things too is to make sure that your sponge or your cotton is covering the copper completely, because if you touch this copper to anywhere on this exposed metal of this cup, it's going to arc, and probably ruin your piece. So like I said, you can move it around. If you notice, I'm getting a lot more amperage out of this on the cleaner side. So you will go through a bunch of these little foam pads. My first piece I did it with a cotton t-shirt. And I used the same piece of t-shirt the whole time, and it worked. However, I think it's smarter to change it out frequently enough that you keep a generally clean piece of cotton on here. That way it will give you a cleaner result, and then too, all that black stuff doesn't get stuck everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a close-up on here. So if you actually look at this, let me see if I can wipe some of this off. So if you look at like the K, you can see the contouring and such that's in there. So that's the etch. And if you look at it from the angle, on like the J and the C, you can see how thick the vinyl looks against there. Whereas if I come over here to like the E and such, it's not as thick. I would say that the best way to do this is to go over it once, gently wipe it off, that way you don't tear up your vinyl, and take a look at it, and then if you want, go over it again. I would say it's probably a good 2 or 3 passes over each section of your vinyl or each section of your piece that you're going to have to do to get it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video for right now, finish up what I'm doing, and go from there. Alright, so I'm about halfway through with this. I still need to do the whole middle section here. I've gone through a couple of the cotton swabs. So one of the things I wanted to show you was your goal is to stay somewhere around the 6 amp mark. So when it goes up higher, it'll short circuit and shut off. 6 amp is plenty enough to get what you need. And if you notice, basically by how much pressure I push down, if I push hard, it goes up. If I let it just kind of float, it stays down. So somewhere between 4 and 6 is best. Another thing is when you go to a different section, you want to lift and then set it down on it. You don't want to drag it. What will happen is you're making this short circuit and you're heating everything up. So you don't want to drag it across the vinyl, because you're heating up the vinyl, and what's going to happen is you're going to pull your vinyl up, and then you're going to have pieces missing out of your thing. Prime example is right there. I pulled it and there's the vinyl. So go ahead and just set it, let it burn for 5-10 seconds, and then go lift it and go. And as you see, it starts getting blue and black and all those crazy colors. You'll know when you need to re-soak it by the sound, and by your amperage. If you're getting a very low amperage and it's not making a good sound and you're getting a lot of so right there you see it's low amperage, and when you come over here you won't be able to see it on there, it's started to steam. So what you want to do is you want to get, like right there, I've gotten it to where I'm getting better amperage because I'm rolling it back on the spoon and getting more of the moisture onto it. You have to play with it and figure it out, but all in all, it's not a arduous task. Alright, so right now I'm done with my first burn, and if you look, you can see it burned in there pretty decent. I'm going to go ahead and do a second one over it and get it all the way good, get it to where I'm happy with it. A little bit deeper, gives it more contour, and then it also allows for you to be able to take like some paint and rub it into it and then wipe it down and make it distressed. So I'm gonna continue burning this and get it to where I like it. Alright, so I've done the burn. I'm just cleaning it off, getting rid of the cotton ball that burned off and the metal that was left over. Doesn't look like much from here, and what you'll find is when you peel off your tape and your vinyl, you'll actually see what you've done. So peel that off real quick and we'll get it exposed so you can see what it did. So the key to taping, or the reason to tape it, is obviously you don't want any of the runoff of the salt water runoff to actually get in between and on the other parts of the cup, because it'll mess it up. So if you notice it's sticking in between those areas, that's because it's actually separated, and you're not going to be able to pull that off as one piece. So you have to take a scraper or your nail or something and peel up those little pieces off the edges. So once you get it peeled up and get all this off of there, you'll expose what you got. Alright, so here is the finished product. You can see it's got some good depth to it. There's a little bit of discoloration, nothing outrageous, but that's what it looks like on the cup. Here's some close-up. You can see the details, and you can see the hammered look, if you will, on the engraved stuff. And this is permanent. It's not something that's just, you know. And then you can see my other side over here. So I haven't polished this side out. I do feel a lot of spots. You can feel a little bit of the texture in it, and it's not sharp, but like I know when I rubbed the rag on it to dry it off, it had that sharp feel to it. It pulled up some of the fabric off the towel or whatnot, but nothing outrageous. So the key to this is just take your time. It took me about 30 minutes to do this to the level that you see it, and it has good texture. It's permanent. It won't go away. So that's a plus, and you know, you'll have something that lasts tentatively forever. So the last note on the etching, engraving, I found best is to be somewhere right around the 6 amp mark on my burn, and I watched that on the gauge as you saw on there. When the cotton gets dry, it will reduce the amperage. You'll see the steaming. You won't hear as much sizzling and such. So you know, you got to keep it moist. I usually use one of those the round cotton pads like used for makeup. I just went and bought some. They were like $5 at Walgreens. I use those. And the other key to it is, again, is to make sure that it's completely covering your connector. There's people that do the same thing with cotton swabs and just clamp it on the end of it. Whatever you do, the negative terminal or the negative item, like for in my case, I'm using the copper tube, has to be wet with the cotton. That's how you get the electrolysis to happen. That's how you get it to do the engraving, and that's how you get it to actually do what you want it to do. Hope this video helped, and if you have questions, hit me up. I used Oracle 651 vinyl for the decal, and you'll see them in my link as well as our page. Thank you. Have a good night.